everyone, this is Michelle with another video for the Alleyway Stamps. Today I'm pulling out this Petal Pusher stamp set. I just wanted to create a card with some flowers because it's been so cold here, so I just want to bring some spring into some of my cards. So I pulled out some die cuts. Whenever I have a stamp set that has matching SVGs, I just go ahead and cut out a whole bunch of the die cuts out of white cardstock so that I can stamp and color them later on, and I just keep them in a little Ziploc bag labeled with the stamp set. So I pulled out a bunch of the die cuts for the biggest flower and a couple of the other little leaves and petals. And I'm just going to center my card around a bunch of these big flowers, so that's why I pulled out a lot of those. And I'm just lining up all my die cuts with the stamp just to make sure I have them all oriented right. And I stacked them on top of each other so that I could keep them all facing the right way. And I'm going to go ahead and use this hybrid ink from My Favorite Things. I just got this ink and I just needed a new black ink that was good for Copic markers because mine was running out, and I figured I would try out this new ink. And so far I really like it. I think it performs really well with Copics. It doesn't bleed and anything like that, so I really like this ink pad. And it stamps really black as well. So I went ahead and stamped all of those flowers, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for all the corresponding little stamps that I have for these die cuts. So now I have all my stamped pieces, and I'm just going to go ahead and do some really simple Copic coloring with these. So basically I just did a little bit of yellow in the centers, and then I'm going to do the colors for all 5 of the flowers at once. So I'm going to go ahead and color all of them with this light red color. And I'm coloring everything right now, but I'm going to go back with other colors to do some highlights and shadows. So once I finished the light red color, I just went back and towards the insides of all the petals, I used this yellow color, and it kind of turns the red into an orangey color, so it kind of creates like an ombre or highlight look, which I really like. And then I went back with the darker red and went along the edges of all the petals. And you'll see this creates so much more dimension. You can see the ones that I finished compared to the ones that I haven't done yet. They're just so much more dimension from the shadow and highlights. So I really like this simple coloring method where I just do all of the flowers at once, kind of like a batch. And after I finished with all of the darker red for the shadows, I'm going to go back to the lighter red color and just kind of run over the whole entire thing. I didn't take too much care to only blend the dark into the lighter red. I just kind of went over everything because this also helps to blend in the yellow with the lighter red, and again it turns into an orangey color, which I like. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the leaves. I just went with a light green, and then there's some kind of like stripes in these leaves, so I went ahead and colored those in darker greens, and again I just did some easy shadowing with darker markers and then blended that back in with the lighter markers. And then I went and colored in the petals as well. So you'll see here I have all my finished flowers and I've arranged them on my card the way I like them to be. And I took out this stamp set, also from the Alleyway Stamps, that's just a bunch of letters, and I'm going to spell out happy birthday in this space in the middle that I've left blank. So I pulled out all the letters for birthday and I put them on my acrylic block, but before I do that, I want to make sure all my flowers stay the way I want them to, so I just carefully picked up each little bunch and taped the back with Scotch tape, and this will just make sure that they all stay in place. And I think this is just a really easy way to keep all your die cuts together so that later on when you adhere them, it's a lot easier and they're exactly the way you positioned them earlier. So I went ahead and did that with both of my groups of flowers. You'll notice I made 5 flowers because it's just a basic design principle to group things in odd numbers, so that's why I did that. And I have this little frame of pattern paper that I've die cut. This pattern paper is from My Mind's Eye, but you can just use any pattern paper you have. I wanted to pull in the yellow orangish color, so that's why I chose this particular paper. So I'm just placing that down with the flowers. I'm going to do some heat embossing, so I'm prepping my cardstock with some anti-static powder. And I'm placing down the frame along with the flowers just so that I can make sure I have enough space for these letters and that I'm not putting them down where they'll be covered up by the flowers. So you'll see I'm just double checking to make sure I have enough space. And once I'm sure that I do, I pulled out my Versamark stamp pad. And I'm just going to ink up my letters and stamp them down so that I can heat emboss this after. And you can't really see it on camera, but I can kind of see where I've stamped down the letters. So I'm going to go ahead and rearrange the letters for happy, which is going to go above the birthday. And I'm just doing 3 letters, the H-A-P, and then I can go back and do the last 2 since I'm going to need that P again later. So again, I'm just inking that up with Versamark, and I'm just looking to see where I've previously inked up the letter so I can line it up perfectly. Again, you can't really see it on camera, but you can see it just faintly in person. And if you can't, you can go ahead and just put on the powder for the bottom word first, and then without heat setting it, stamp the top word, and then you'll have everything perfectly lined up. So I'm using some liquid platinum embossing powder from Ranger. This is a nice silver embossing powder that is really high quality and smooth when you heat set it. So I really like this embossing powder. So even though I've done this on top of a piece of scrap paper, there's usually still some loose powder. So I just keep a lint roller handy and I run that over my work surface so I don't get the loose powder everywhere. So I've gone ahead off camera and heat set that, so now you can see the sentiment is all shiny. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this frame. So I just went along the outsides of my card base and the insides of the frame, and I'm just going to adhere that down. And my card got a little warped, but later on I'm going to just place this under a heavy book and then it'll flatten out just fine. So I'm just placing down the flowers the way I had positioned them earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere this with my tape runner, just some flat adhesive. So now I finished adhering all of these pieces, so I just turned it around and cut off all of the edges that are hanging off the side. I forgot to do the top one, but I'm going to do that at the end. So after I finished, I decided I wanted some sequins because the top right corner was looking a little empty. So I just brought in some big moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm also going to be accenting them with smaller silver sequins to match the embossing powder. I just took some matte liquid adhesive out with some scrap cardstock, and I'm going to be using some tweezers just to make it easier for me to glue all of these sequins. And I like to layer my sequins also, which you'll see on some of these groupings. And I think this just finishes off the card really nicely. So there's a finished card. I have some close-ups for you as well. You can see that the Copic coloring ended up really vibrant and beautiful, and I really liked the way it turned out, especially when I layered the yellow on top of the pink. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but the kind of orangey color you get is really beautiful from that, and it gives a lot of dimension to these stamped images. And as you saw when I was coloring, it didn't take too long at all because I did everything at once and kind of did it in batches and just went over large areas really quickly. So there's my finished card. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching until the end. On screen here I have a couple of other videos that I've created for the Alleyway Stamps, so go ahead and check those out. Make sure to also subscribe to the Alleyway Stamps and my YouTube channel if you want to see more crafting tutorials like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.